So I want to talk about Fraggle Rock. Fraggle Rock is a TV series from the 80s created by Jim Henson and writers like Jerry Jewell and Jocelyn Stevenson, among many others. And the show explains the interconnectedness of everything in the universe. Alongside that, it also explores really difficult themes like death in numerous episodes. And the most prominent episode to illustrate that is Gone But Not Forgotten in season 4, which I will analyze later on in this video. Besides that episode, though, there are many others which explore the mysteries of life and death. I didn't know what to title this, but I really mainly want to focus on the themes of interdependence, symbiotic relationships, coexistence, and death, and how Fraggle Rock was able to portray all of these complex themes really well. Now, I do want to cover some of the history and production of Fraggle Rock before going into the episodes, since I think it gives us a really good foundation and lays the groundwork for us to appreciate the show's message and all of the work that went into achieving that message. Now, while Fraggle Rock is considered to be a children's show, they intentionally did not hire children's writers for its creation because Henson and his team didn't want to feel boxed in as a children's show. And that freedom really allowed for them to discuss and explore deeper themes with nuance, like death, among many other things. Now, when his team began creating the show, they knew that the music would be central to Fraggle Rock. So Jerry Jewell, who was the writer and creative producer, he took on the role of listening to hundreds of cassette tapes that different writers and musicians had submitted for review. And he said, I listened to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of songs that were children's songs, but we were looking for Fraggle songs. And one morning, the alarm went off in my hotel room, and I got up. And before even going in to brush my teeth, I picked up a cassette, shoved it into the machine, and I remember walking back into the bedroom frozen because for the first time, there was Fraggle music. It was so different. And I just love that quote because the show was truly magical in how it created this Fraggle culture and Fraggle spiritness. So Jerry Jewell was actually listening to the first song that would air in Fraggle Rock called Follow Me, created by the songwriters Philip Bassam and Dennis Lee, who was a Canadian poet. It's one of my favorite songs in the series, but there are truly so many great ones. They wrote almost every song for 96 episodes, and there's usually 2 to 3 songs per episode. So they wrote nearly 200 songs for Fraggle Rock, which is amazing. Henson was also quoted saying, I want to do a show that will change the world and end war. And that was an incredibly lofty goal, but him and his team strive to achieve that through the use of silly, colorful little Muppet creatures in episodes with a 25-minute airtime. They wanted the show to be about understanding and how conflict often arises from misunderstandings because of our differences. And with all of this in mind, the show also was set to be an international production connecting with children across the globe. Now I need to explain the vast Fraggle universe and how it's all connected. So we'll start in Fraggle Rock. Fraggle Rock is a system of natural caves and is home to the Fraggles. The Fraggles are small, colorful creatures that stand at about knee high in comparison to a human. They love to make music, play, and explore. Some wear clothes and some don't. The Fraggles also have a 30-minute work week, and for the rest of their time, they enjoy having fun and just frolicking about. Fraggles love music, and it's very important to uniting them all together across the rock. And then their main source of food is radishes, which you may think, okay, cool, my source is mac and cheese and a blue Powerade. Who cares? But it does matter, and so it will come up later again. That's why I'm mentioning it. So we see the Fraggle Five the most often. There's Gobo, Red, Wembley, Boober, and Moki Fraggle, and they all are very different from one another, but they tend to balance each other out and are still friends. Gobo is the practical, logical type, and he's an explorer, while Red is extroverted and daring. Both Gobo and Red tend to be competitive with one another and a bit egotistical. And then we have Wembley, who is the youngest of the Fraggle Five, and he's extremely indecisive, a Wembler, as his friends call him. But he's got a big heart and he loves to have a good laugh. While Boober is often incredibly anxious and possibly would have an OCD diagnosis if there was a DSM-5 in the rock. So he loves to do tedious tasks like laundry while trying to fight off his constant thoughts of impending doom. And then finally, there's Moki Fraggle. She is the oldest of the five. She's very spiritual, and she's also kind of the artist of the group. And then there's also Gobo's uncle, Uncle Traveling Matt. He's an explorer too, and he describes the Fraggles as a noble race, fearless, dignified, and intellectual. They represent the very pinnacle of civilization and culture. A Fraggle is, most assuredly, the best of all possible creatures. Music is the greatest of the Fraggles' art forms, but Fraggles also possess uncanny curiosity and great athletic ability. Fraggles naturally have physical prowess and a dance like grace. So from the first episode, we see that the Fraggles are framed as essentially being, at the center of the universe. Traveling Matt believes them to be the best of all possible creatures, which is a dangerous mentality to have. It's hard to understand others and practice empathy when you believe that you're the center of everything and exceptional. So we, of course, will see this explored more throughout the series. Now, Fraggle Rock is also home to the creatures known as doozers. They're small little green creatures, and their society is centered around work instead of play. The doozers spend most of their time building construction through Fraggle Rock, and then the Fraggles eat those constructions, which they call doozer sticks. To give you some doozer culture, they have a taking the helmet ceremony, which is basically like a coming of age ceremony where they take the helmet and they devote and pledge themselves to a life of work. So most of the doozers gain meaning from their work. The doozers live at a place called the Doozer Dome, and early on in the series, they rarely interact with the Fraggles at all. Now, besides the doozers in Fraggle Rock, there's also many other creatures. For example, Mudwell the Mud Bunny, who is one of the rarest creatures, and we will discuss him in length later on. But there's a lot of other puppets as background characters a lot, so there's a lot of different creatures. Fraggle Rock has a few different portals, I guess you could say, and one of those leads to the Gorgs universe. So the Gorgs are these giant, hairy, honestly kind of terrifying creatures that stand at about 15 feet tall. The Gorgs consider themselves to be the rulers of the universe, but it's unclear if there actually are any other Gorgs. We never see them with humans either. Now, I assume they're in like an alternate dimension or reality. Now, in terms of their personality, Pa Gorg is a complete jerk to his son. The son, a dummy for a son. Truly is such an asshole. Now, Junior Gorg, he tends to the garden where the radishes grow, and the Gorgs consider the Fraggles to be pests since they're often going into the garden and stealing those radishes for their own food supply. That said, Junior, he's usually fascinated by the Fraggles, and we see him trying to catch them a lot. In the garden, there's also a sentient trash heap named Marjorie, and Marjorie is basically an oracle for the Fraggles, so they travel to her when they need advice or wisdom, and she also has two rat-like companions named Philo and Gunge. There is another portal in Fraggle Rock that leads to what the Fraggles call outer space, and that's basically our human world. So the Fraggles have access to this workshop that's used by a human named Doc and his highly sentient dog named Sprocket. Gobo's uncle, who I mentioned earlier, Uncle Traveling Matt, he explores outer space and then he sends these postcards back to Doc's workshop, and that's where Gobo goes to collect these postcards. The postcards often detail his adventures and his misunderstandings of the silly creatures, who are the humans. That's what the Fraggles call us. So whenever Doc receives a postcard addressed to Gobo Fraggle, he's usually confused by that, and so he tosses it in the waste bin, and then Gobo goes to collect the postcard each day.
Never hear those pipes back.
Somewhere in there is a postcard from my Uncle Traveling Matt. Well, how you gonna get it, Gobo? Like a thief in the night.
So as Gobo goes to collect the postcard, he has to brave the beast, Sprocket, to retrieve it, and he does have some really close calls early on with Sprocket. So that's an overview of Fraggle Rock and how it's connected to other places in the universe. It's important to know this, early on in the series, that the creatures don't really interact with each other that often and very early on. And if they do, they usually misunderstand one another due to their vast differences. And so, of course, as the series progresses, we will see that they have more opportunities to learn from one another. So with that established, let's dive into the episodes and the themes of death and grief and the connectedness of all living beings.
Down in Fraggle Rock.
The first episode that we're going to go into is episode 3, called Let the Water Run. And it's probably the most prominent example of showing how we are connected all as beings and how our actions affect one another. So the episode starts off with Red Fraggle being excited to host her best swimming extravaganza event, which in true Red style, she is really independent and she wants to organize all of this on her own. And so the other Fraggles are offering to help her, but she's still determined to just do it all alone by herself.
Hey, Red, look at this poster I made for your publicity campaign. Isn't it terrific?
Oh, gee, thanks, Wembley, but I've already taken care of all that, too.
And little Wembley, he looks so dejected because he shows her this art that he made for the show, and she doesn't even acknowledge it because she's just set on preparing the whole event herself.
But she didn't even look at it. Hey, Red.
And so they're all taken aback by this, and Gobo even asks if there really is nothing they can do to help her. And then in true Boober fashion, he tells her no because...
Isn't there anything we could do?
Say no.
No.
Good, I've got socks to wash.
And then Red Fraggle has a really catchy number all about how she can do it on her own.
I can do it on my own. Do it on your own. I can do it on my own.
The episode is already establishing this theme of relying on only yourself and, not taking into account your connection to others. In our next scene, we see Junior waiting for a Fraggle to come out of the hole that leads into their garden because he won't let a Fraggle into his garden.
Those Fraggles, they won't get into my garden, or my name's not Junior. What, you Fraggle? Oof.
Junior then goes to pump water from the well in the garden to prepare Pa Gorg's royal bath. And then we cut back to Fraggle Rock, where Moki and Wembley watch as the water from the Fraggle Pond begins to disappear.
And pump the water.
The water's disappearing. Yeah, why does it disappear every day?
Wembley then asks, why does the water disappear every day? And Moki says it's just always been that way, giving it this kind of mythical religious undertone. So we see, of course, that the Gorg's well is connected to the Fraggle's water source. Now in Fraggle Rock, when the water disappears, there's a group called the Pipe Bangers, and their role is to literally bang on the pipes in Fraggle Rock to make sure the water runs again. So they start banging out this funky little jam.
Look, here come the pipe bangers.
Then we cut back to Doc's workshop, where Sprocket and Doc hear the pipes banging, so they think the boiler needs to be fixed to stop the pipes from banging.
Oh, the pipes again. Hey, Sprocket. You're right, Sprocket. I better drain the boiler.
Doc drains the water as he's fixing it, and after that we cut back to Fraggle Rock, where we see the Fraggles are disappointed and having this faith crisis because the pipe bangers aren't making the water flow back into the pond.
Nothing happened.
Where is the water?
There is no water. Well, it's most odd, but then pipes work in wondrous ways.
I also like to think that hearing pipes bang is mysterious too in our silly creature world, because I have no idea how that works. One time our apartment, the pipes were banging really loudly, and the workers who were coming to fix it also didn't really seem to have a clear idea what was going on, or at least I didn't understand what they were talking about. So I just find it fun to think of it being like a mysterious wonder both ways for the Fraggles and for me as a silly creature. Of course, though, Red is really upset because millions and billions of Fraggles are coming to see her swimming extravaganza, and now there's no water.
Millions and billions of Fraggles are coming here today to see my show.
Can I come too? I just love swimming shows.
Now that the water's been shut off and there's no water in the Fraggle Pond, there's also no water either in the Gorg's well. Now, this doesn't really have anything to do with the theme, but I just hate that Pa Gorg is in his little royal bath playing with ships while Ma Gorg and Junior wait on him, and then he stands up.
There is no more water.
There is always water.
Oh.
Why? Why did they do that? Also, not necessarily tied in, but Red Fraggle is Uncle Traveling Matt's #1 hater.
Hey, guys, I just read a new exciting postcard from my Uncle Traveling Matt.
I need water, not a lecture from your goofy uncle.
And this is probably unpopular, but I also am a bit of a Matt hater, and I'm not gonna lie, I won't get into it too much here. So I'm sorry if you do like Uncle Traveling Matt. I don't hate him. He's just not for me, maybe. Maybe he'll grow on me again one day. So anyways, Gobo has Matt's postcard and he's going to read it for everyone despite Red's insistence on not wanting to hear it. But then she hears that Matt met creatures who can pull water from the sky. And the puppeteering is so, so good in this moment.
Dear nephew Gobo, I found a race of creatures who can pull water down from the sky.
Basically, Matt thinks that the silly creatures do this elaborate water ritual where they all gather together and then pull out these umbrellas, and that pulls the water down from the sky.
The creatures transformed their sticks into upside-down bowls. At that very moment, water poured from the sky.
Now, Red still claims that it's stupid since she doesn't believe that there could possibly be these things called umbrellas. And Gobo tells her that there actually is one, though, at the end of the tunnel, which he means Doc's workshop. Then Red is determined to get that umbrella all on her own because she believes it's the only chance to get water back into the pond.
There is no such thing.
There's one in the room at the end of the tunnel.
Then I'll go get it.
Oh, but you can't do that. You've never been out there.
So we see Red approaching the tunnel and we see how scared she is to go into it. Luckily, Gobo followed Red because him and the other Fraggles were nervous for her. And then there's this really, really sweet scene where Gobo is like telling Red that he just needed to stretch his legs.
Fancy meeting you.
I needed to stretch my legs. Did you get the umbrella yet?
And I just love it because he didn't go like, see, Red, I told you so, that you couldn't do it all on your own and you were too scared. Or make her feel bad or ashamed for not being able to do it and for not asking for help, because that's what friends are for. We've got to support one another, and you can't do that by making others feel ashamed. Now, Red still doesn't back down immediately, so then Gobo ends up saying that he'll just wait outside for her to go in, and after hesitating for a little bit longer, she finally admits that she can't do it on her own.
I can't do it. I need your help.
I'd be glad to help. Whoopee!
Again, I just love this because Gobo knows that Red's independence is a big part of her personality and that she struggles to ask for support. And she has to come to conclusions on her own, which she does in this instance. And, he supported her in coming to that conclusion. And he did it without shaming her. I also love that the writers didn't bash the moral lesson over our heads. They just showed us that we need support from people and that we're all connected.
Okay, one thing I will say is there is an argument to be made that it is kind of condescending of Gobo the way he is speaking to her and like paternalistic. But I'm gonna let it go, okay, for the sake of what I am trying to achieve in talking about this episode. And I would be remiss to not mention it because this theme will kind of come up later in some other episodes that I find personally annoying, the way in which Gobo is depicted and how Red is depicted. So yeah, I just wanted to mention it here. I still love this episode, but yeah.
So like I said, she sees that Gobo is gonna leave and she finally admits that she does need his help, and he says that he's happy to help, she just needed to ask. Gobo, he goes into the workshop and gets the umbrella. We cut back to the Fraggles' Great Hall where the Fraggle Pond is, and all of the Fraggles have arrived. They are clamoring for the show to begin, and so Red brings in this mysterious umbrella to the Archbanger Fraggle. He's like the head pipe banger, and she says that it's from another world and can pull water from the sky, and then he says that it's just the most amazing banging stick that he's ever seen.
You open it up.
Brother and sister bangers, we have here the most phenomenally amazing stick.
It's
Stand
better
aside, my child. I know a sacred banging stick.
The banging tune begins again, and they sing one of my favorite songs. I don't even know why, I just find that it's in my head the most often.
Please water run.
So then we see that Doc says he's fixed the boiler, and so he turns the water back on, and as the Fraggles are singing their beautiful tune, the water comes gushing back into the Fraggle Pond. It's also really sweet because we see that Red Fraggle, she acknowledges Wembley's little poster that he made for her now that she's been reminded of her friends and helping each other, so it's just really sweet that she is finally giving him acknowledgement. So the umbrella has worked and faith is restored to the Fraggles. We see Red Fraggle, she thanks Gobo, and then Junior Gorg also sees that water is now coming from the well. So the swimming extravaganza is completely on now. Red goes to jump into the pond to signal the start, and it's incredibly disturbing to me, this scene. So if I haven't banged the theme over your head enough, I just love this episode and how it shows the relationship between everyone, and how our actions affect others even when we're unaware of it. So yeah, we can't just rely on ourselves always. We have to take into account other people. And it's a simple message and lesson, but it was explored in a really great way. Okay, episode 5, Wembley finds a job, or the 30-minute work week. I don't know how much this episode ties into everything, but it's one of my favorite episodes, so I'm going to cover it. Basically, in this episode, all of the Fraggles are talking about the jobs they have, and since Wembley is the youngest of the Fraggle Five, it's his turn to get a job. And I love this episode because everyone's job is valued in some way, even if it seems meaningless. So, for example, Moki's job is to pick the radishes from the Gorg's garden for the food supply of the Fraggles. Boober's job is to cook, and he also does laundry. Gobo is the explorer, and his job, he says, also is to pick up postcards from Uncle Matt. And then Red, she swims and splashes to clean the Fraggle pond. I don't really know how that cleans it, but that's her job. So anyways, Gobo is really pushy in this episode to make Wembley get a job. He's kind of taking on the role of like a strict boomer dad.
Wembley, all Fraggles have to decide what job they're gonna do, eh?
But picking a job is just too big a decision.
But you have to have a job, Wembley.
So yeah, Gobo's being really pushy, and then Boober also encourages Wembley by saying,
Yeah, tedium and drudgery are good for the soul.
Boober.
and that clip, that lives in my head every single day that I clock in at my call center job. They have a fun little number, the working song.
Your duty's always waiting, and duty must be done.
And then Moki also is trying to encourage Wembley, and she's like, sometimes I even put in 2 to 3 minutes of overtime just for fun.
Yeah, but do you really enjoy your 30-minute work week?
Oh, yes. Why, sometimes I put in 2, maybe 3 minutes of overtime just for fun.
Wow.
And this episode just kills me. You know, we're trying to get the 30-hour work week. I don't want that. I want the 30-minute work week. Oh, there's also a great segment with Uncle Traveling Matt where he's on a roller coaster and he's like questioning his job as he's on that roller coaster and fighting for his life. So yeah, throughout the episode, Wembley, he is Wembling. He doesn't know what job to do. He's really stressed out about it. He doesn't have any calling. And so Gobo decides to get tough with him. He basically tells Wembley, he's like, I don't mess around with wishy-washy Fraggles. And Wembley's like, oh, gee, well, if that's how you feel about me, then I'll just leave.
Wembley,
Yes, Gobo.
you mean you haven't chosen a job yet? I don't pal around with wishy-washy Fraggles.
Can't just go away.
Oh, yes, you can.
And he's like, I'll pack my things. And then Gobo just does a devastating line. He's like,
Well, that shouldn't take long. You've only got one spare shirt.
I'll pack my thing.
and then poor Wembley, he's like, I'll pack my one shirt then. I also love in this episode how Boober is doing the laundry.
Listen, you want a good job? You gotta try mine. Laundry.
Oh, gee, I guess I won't take that job either.
Wembley, he's all stressed out, so he goes to the Oracle, the trash heap, for advice. Marjorie.
Oh, please, Madam Trash Heap. I need your help.
Oh, you look so unhappy.
And she is kind of like rambling off to herself, and she's like saying that she always wanted to be a fireman.
Well, personally, I always wanted to be a fireman.
And Wembley is like, wait a second, that sounds like a really awesome job. I would love to be a fireman.
Pardon?
You know, a fireman with the bells.
And the sirens and the axes and the hats. Oh, I'd love to be a fireman.
So he thought that a job had to be meaningless and boring, but he discovers maybe he can actually like the work he does and find meaning in it. And then this is the gift that I saw that started it all with my desire to want to watch Fraggle Rock, but at the time I saw it, it wasn't streaming. But anyways, that is the funniest video I've ever seen in all of TV history. So yeah, Wembley, he scrambles back to Fraggle Rock and he's like, I want to be a fireman, you know, excited about that. But then he becomes nervous because he realizes that he doesn't even know how to start a fire.
I can't be a fireman. I don't even know how to start a fire.
And obviously, to be a fireman, you have to know how to start a fire to be a fireman. So Wembley is going to go before the volunteer fighting department to request a job. So he's really nervous to do that now, though. And Boober doesn't help. He basically is saying that Wembley is going to blow up and die from his nerves.
What if the firemen don't accept me?
Yes! When you don't know the answers, you'll get so scared you'll blow up.
I'm gonna blow up.
So the moment comes, Wembley, he needs to go up to the fire chief and offer himself up. But as he goes to do it, he tries to turn around and run back to the group, and it made me laugh so hard. Wembley, he's in front of the head fire chief, and he's getting interviewed and asked questions. And Wembley's doing really good. He's like, yeah, I love like bells. I love ladders. I love all of this stuff. This would make me a great fireman.
Do you like to wear hats and climb ladders?
Hats and ladders are a kick.
Good answer. I wouldn't have thought of that.
The chief, he's like, and now the final question. Do you know how to start a fire? And Wembley's like,
How do you start a fire?
Please, sir, I don't know.
Because no, he doesn't know how to start a fire, and so he admits that he doesn't know how to do it. And then they're all like,
well, thank goodness, neither do we.
well, that's awesome, because we don't know how to start a fire either. And I love when all of the Fraggles like laugh at their stupid jokes. So anyways, Wembley, he nailed the interview, and he says that he's made his decision, and now he gets to be the siren for the volunteer fire department.
I get to be the siren.
So yeah, the episode ends with everyone having fun. Wembley is doing the siren, and the Fraggles are like flying in the air. I love when they do that also. So that's episode 5. Now we'll go into episode 6, the preachification of convincing John. Now this is a great episode which illustrates how some of us, especially those of us who are white or able-bodied people, may think we're advocating for others and we couldn't possibly cause harm while actually causing harm because we aren't really listening to those with different experiences. So it starts off with Moki writing in her diary, and she's pondering when she begins to think about the Doozers and how much time they spend building on their creations, which the Fraggles just end up eating and not caring about.
Hey, Boober, come on, I'll race you to the pool.
Okay.
And so she begins to ask why, the Doozers do the things they do while observing them. And she gets real existential about the whole thing.
That Doozers do. Why is there a world at all?
Now, without even asking the Doozers about their views on the matter, Moki goes on this crusade to save the Doozers and their buildings. And after she continues to think about it, she asks Wembley, too, if he thinks it's right.
Do you think it's right to eat Doozer constructions?
Huh?
Which she ignores his answer also and says she thinks that she must be right, that it's immoral to eat the constructions.
As if Doozer constructions were worthless.
No, as if they were delicious.
The more I think about it, the more I know I'm right.
And so she hasn't asked the Doozers about how they feel about it. She did ask Wembley, but she ignored his answer because she's blinded by her own self-righteousness, I guess, and she thinks that she's right. And so even when Gobo and the others tell her that she's being silly and they're not going to stop eating the construction,
Fraggle should stop eating Doozer constructions.
What has happened to Moki?
Well, the plug came out and her brain drained away.
and I will say Gobo, he is being an asshole about it. Like, yes, Moki is being annoying. She's not listening to others. She thinks she's the only one that cares for other people and knows what's right. But at the same time, like, it is a good thing to try to put yourself at least in the shoes of others and not be a jerk about it. So there's that. She calls upon the solemn oath of the Fraggle, which is really big in Fraggle Rock, and she basically makes them all swear on this oath. So now they're committed to her mission.
Do solemnly swear never to willfully eat or destroy Doozer buildings again.
Weeba, weeba, waffa, waffa.
And so afterwards, she keeps speaking in such a grand way. How they've taken this huge, morally righteous action, which just goes to show that this might all be more for her ego, despite her good intentions.
The Fraggle Five went out to meet our destiny.
Later on, we see Gobo and Wembley really struggling to not eat them, and Moki polices them.
Oh, Gobo, look at these constructions. They look delicious.
Oh. Now, Wembley, don't be silly.
And Gobo has such a good line.
Let me just nibble on the bridge. It's been 3 days and all I've had to eat is food.
Now, Uncle Matt, he sent back a postcard about seeing real-life doozers, and he goes to eat their constructions.
The food is terrible.
So this just reaffirms to Moki that they really are all awful for continuing to ruin the constructions that the doozers put so much time and effort into.
I think that's just awful. Even your uncle is trying to destroy Doozer Works. What are you two doing? Oh!
So like we saw, Wembley and Gobo, they're really struggling to not eat the constructions. And so Moki recruits the help of Convincing John. Now, Convincing John is a character that's based off of TV evangelicals, and he basically convinced anyone of anything, and he's played by Jim Henson.
Convincing John can convince anyone to do anything.
So when Moki and Red go to visit Convincing John, he convinces them of nonsense, like wearing cups on their hands and a blindfold, and immediately they prove that it's not sensible when Red keeps running into cave walls.
What a nice man he is. Do you know you're wearing a blindfold?
Convincing John told me that it was the only way.
So I really like that he's included as a character to kind of demonstrate in a kid-friendly way of how people can abuse their power or be manipulative for their own gain. And just because someone is confident in their speech and their convictions doesn't actually mean that they're doing good or that they're even really sensible in what they're promoting. We also see Moki gathered in the Great Hall with all the Fraggles, and she addresses them in this really grandiose manner about her message for the world.
Today, I bring to you a Fraggle with a message for the world.
And then Convincing John launches into his incredibly catchy, convincing song.
Listen to Convincing John, and all your troubles will be gone.
So he's telling the Fraggles these stories to scare them into not eating the constructions.
Well, you eat a doozer tower, and it's pretty as a flower. And the flower's what you pick up in the field. But the field can have a hole, and you can fall in while you're strolling, and a cork can come along to find a meal.
And so when you use fear as a tactic like that, it works.
We, all the Fraggles in the world, do solemnly swear never to eat doozer constructions again.
So yeah, the Fraggles, they are convinced for a little while at least to not eat the constructions, but as time goes on, they start feeling like prisoners in their own caves.
Couldn't we interfere just a little bit?
I wish we could. They just built my guitar into an overpass.
Laundry as we know it is a thing of the past.
The Fraggles do end up calling another meeting, and Moki is convinced that they're all going to thank her for her, great effort.
Maybe they want to thank me. Oh, thank you.
Thank you, schmank you. You've made a mess of things here today.
But instead, they want to be released from the oath. And she doubles down again, though, and she calls them all heartless.
You're all just heartless. I'm the only one that truly cares about the happiness of the doozers.
Now, this is all until Moki later on overhears a doozer mom talking with her child doozer about having to leave Fraggle Rock because they no longer have any space to build.
Mommy, I don't want to leave. None of us do, dear, but doozers have to build, and soon there'll be no more space left.
And the young Fraggle, he asks, why? Why is this happening to us? And the mom, she says, it looks like the Fraggles have become heartless.
The Fraggles have become heartless. If they will not eat the constructions, we must move on or we will die.
So Moki hears this and she realizes that she had the wrong idea about all of this. And so she ends up apologizing to the other Fraggles and releases them from the oath.
I thought I understood, Doozers, but I didn't, and I was wrong.
And then the Fraggles go to town on eating those constructions. Now, I don't think Moki had any ill intention, and I do think it's good to make yourself question yourself and question your actions and to think about others. But when we don't really listen and communicate with others, we just risk projecting our own experiences and feelings onto them, which can inadvertently, of course, cause more harm, as we saw. So if we subconsciously think that we are exceptional and right, our ego is in the way of truly connecting with others and supporting them. So I thought this show did a really good job portraying that message about not making assumptions about other groups, and what those groups might need without actually listening to them. Because we all have different cultures and different ideas, and yeah. Episode 15, I Don't Care. So this episode starts off with Boober. We see him and he is talking about this lucky token that he has. It's a bottle cap that he got from Marjorie the Trash Heap.
Who cares, Wembley? I have my lucky bottle cap, so I fear nothing.
Wow, that star looks magic.
Just like the magic words on the other side. No deposit, no return.
So Boober, he really relies on these lucky objects to keep him safe from harm, and he's always having, again, these obsessions about being harmed. So he's really confident with this lucky bottle cap, and he's kind of bragging to Wembley, and he's like, yeah, I can do anything. I'm feeling really lucky with this. And Wembley's like, okay, well, why don't you go into outer space? Probably not thinking that Boober is actually going to agree to do it, but Boober's like, yeah, I can definitely do that.
Hey, could you go into outer space?
Yeah, no deposit, no return.
Does that really help?
Of course. Here I go.
Oh, wait a minute, no!
And so he tries to go into outer space, and Wembley's like trying to hold him back. He doesn't want him to die by Sprocket the Beast.
I think you'll last about 3 seconds out there, Boober.
You've got to have faith, Wembley.
You'll be killed, Boober. No!
And as he's holding Boober back from going down this tunnel into Doc's workshop, they're kind of fighting and whatnot, and then the bottle cap accidentally gets thrown over the cliff.
Relax, Wembley. Oh no, my lucky bottle cap. It's at the bottom of that bottomless chasm.
So now Boober thinks he's going to be a spineless coward again now that his lucky cap is gone. And Wembley pleads with Boober to not be angry. And we're going to get a really funny line that's going to repeat over and over.
Please don't be angry.
I'm not angry, Wembley. Disappointed, perhaps. Distressed. Distraught.
And Boober's like, I'm not angry, just disappointed, distraught. And then I love Boober's little music number that he goes into.
Going down the road, sun don't shine. No one in the world is a friend of mine.
So yeah, he really relies on these objects to cope with his obsessions. And from what I've seen, it doesn't look like they do have therapists in Fraggle Rock, just based on the 30-minute work week. So he's got to take what he can from Marjorie the Trash Heap. Now, luckily for Boober, he goes to see Marjorie again, and she does have another token to give him. It's a lucky blanket. They give him a little bit of backstory to reassure him that it's lucky, and so now he's feeling happy again and confident, and he heads on back to Fraggle Rock. Now, the other background for this episode is that Moki is putting together a play and directing a play. So anyways, Boober, he has this newfound confidence again, and he's ready to be in the play.
Boober, Boober, does this mean you can be in our play?
With this, I can do anything!
And he's excited to be the head of the dragon or the fiery charger, but then Moki is like, actually, Gobo's gonna be the head, you're the butt.
Oh, Boober, that's Gobo's costume.
I beg your pardon?
Yes, you see, you are the back half.
What?
Boober, his feelings are hurt, he feels pushed aside again.
Please, don't be angry, Boober.
Angry? I'm not angry. Dismayed, perhaps. Disappointed.
Boober!
It's like no one believes in him. Wembley didn't think he could go into the workshop into outer space, and now Moki's like, yeah, I don't think you have what it takes to play the head. You're going to be the ass. But then Moki sees that he has this beautiful blanket, and she's like, that would make a perfect costume for Red. And she's not listening to him when he's telling her, like, no, this is my lucky blanket that Marjorie gave me.
Where did you get this beautiful blanket.
Now, the trash heap gave that to me so I could be in our play.
For our play?
No, for me.
So she's not listening. She assumes it's for the play. And I just find it really frustrating in this episode because they truly are just disregarding their friend's anxiety and feelings. And then we see Wembley come into the hall and he like smacks Boober on the back accidentally with a ladder.
But Moki! Ah!
Oh. And again, he's like, please, Boober, don't be angry with me. And Boober's like,
oh, Boober, I'm sorry. I hope you're not angry.
Why should I be angry? Dismayed, perhaps. Dizzy.
So anyways, now we see that Red has the cape on as a costume Moki gave her, and we see her like swinging around in it, and she ends up knocking paint onto the blanket, and Boober, he is just obviously distraught watching this.
Hey, why don't we call it the Tale of the Triumphant Princess?
You call that triumphant? I call it paint-stained.
So Moki, she ignores him again, and she's like, please don't be angry, and he finally, he snaps.
Oh, I'm not angry.
Good.
I am furious!
I'm furious! So Boober, he runs back to his little hole that he lives in alone, and we see Gobo, Wembley, and Red, they all gather around, and they're trying to apologize to him. Red's saying sorry for getting paint on the blanket, but he's ignoring it, and he's telling Gobo, like, they planned this, and y'all are just mocking me.
I'm sorry, Boober. I didn't know the paint was there.
They planned this, Gobo. Spoil my blanket.
Boober, they're trying to apologize.
I don't care!
Which I understand his frustration because really everyone has been ignoring what he was saying.
My blanket has paint on it!
Now, granted, in Red's case, she didn't know that this was his lucky blanket. Like, Moki just gave her the costume. But anyways, Red, she's kind of had enough, and she's like, you like laundry anyways. Why don't you just clean it yourself? But it's like, again, that's not the point. The point is that his feelings have been disregarded about this blanket, and y'all were disrespectful to it. So Red's like, you're being way too serious about this, and she continues on and tells him he's just sulking, and Gobo's like, okay, knock it off. But then Boober has one final retaliation against her.
That's what you call it, Boober, right? You're sulking! I'll kill him!
Now, Moki comes in and she says that she has booked the Hall of Justice for them, even though she could just apologize to him, but whatever. So she's booked the hall, and Boober says this is great because he's going to prepare this big speech to, wow everyone and get justice. And so all the Fraggles, they swear on the oath before they head to the hall.
I swear. To be fair.
To be fair.
Now solemnly repeat after me.
Now solemnly repeat after me.
No.
That part, Wembley, you're not supposed to say what he said.
God, I love Wembley, and I love this show. So now they're all in the Great Hall of Justice, and Boober, he is finishing up writing his speech. And then Wembley comes in and he asks Boober if he wants some blueberry juice. Boober's like, no, how could you even ask in the Great Hall of Justice if I would want juice? Are you out of your mind?
Oh, hey, Boober, would you like some blueberry juice?
What? You want to drink juice in a sacred hall of justice?
And so, yeah, he's taking this all very, very seriously. And so his blanket, it is put into evidence for review, and we see Gobo taking head of the hall, and he calls for order in the hall. And then immediately, Red, she starts goofing off, and then Gobo tells her that she doesn't have the floor to speak right now, and she takes that and runs with it and begins spouting off all of these puns and jokes.
According to the rule book, you don't have the floor, Red.
I don't want the floor. If you're going to be the chair, I'm going to be the chest of drawers.
So Red takes the gavel from Gobo, and she's goofing off. We see her running around, and of course this is not going to end well. While going on her joke tirade, she accidentally knocks over the blueberry juice that Wembley brought, and she knocks it all over his blanket.
Boober, you're the shelf.
Boober has a powerful moment where he's like, why don't y'all just let me be the doormat, since you all walk over me anyways?
Why not let Boober be the doormat? You could walk all over Boober.
And it's like, yeah, he's taking it seriously, but he's different from you all. And that blanket meant a lot to him. And you aren't getting it. And so Red, she's just like, you could just party and forget about it. And all the Fraggles are laughing. They're having a great time.
You could
forgive and forget and party.
Then there's a really funny scene where Boober, he's going to go find a page of his speech to give now and bring order back to the hall. but he can't find the page in his speech.
As I say in my speech on page 62. Where is it?
What a mess.
Wembley! My speech!
And poor Wembley, he's not even trying to joke. He was just trying to clean up the blueberry juice. He didn't know, and he's been apologizing throughout the episode, but he's just Wembley. So, of course, Boober, though, he feels totally misunderstood, and so he says he's going to run away to find Fraggles who like justice and laundry like him. And yeah, it's dramatic, but he's had quite the day. Red Fraggle, her ego is still in the way a little bit, but we do see she's like a little unsure now about herself and what she's been doing. She's like, we don't even care what he does, right?
Cares what he does.
Oh, we care. Don't we?
But she doesn't say it with much conviction. And then Wembley, he's like, we do care though, right? Because yeah, you should care about Boober and your friend. And so yeah, they're reflecting a little bit, and we see that maybe they're starting to see that they're misunderstanding him. So Red and Moki take it upon themselves to go to Marjorie, and they're like, hey, we've hurt our friend. Marjorie tells them how to clean the blanket, and says that it doesn't require magic to do it. So they run back to Fraggle Rock to clean it. And then we see that poor Booper, he is having a fit. He is like destroying all these user constructions, and we see Wembley is following him and trying to tell him to stop, and he's apologizing, but Booper just won't have it. He won't listen. He's knocking everything over. And so Wembley is grabbing him to try to get him to come back with him. And then the most powerful scene, which I have said every powerful scene, there's been every powerful scene in the show, but another powerful scene comes up.
Wembley, I don't care. Now get out of my way! Wembley, it's not true. I do care.
I must admit, the first time I saw this, I laughed so hard. And I don't know if y'all find it as funny as I do, but it was cathartic. My stomach, it hurt. Like, I had not laughed like that in a while. And obviously, it's sad. I don't want to see Wembley hurt, but seeing a Muppet fly in the air like that, it is just damn funny. It's good TV. So anyways, Wembley, he looks dead for all intents and purposes. He's laying under these constructions, laying despondent, and Boober, he also is having his life flash before his eyes, and he's like, oh my god, it's not true. Like, I didn't mean this, Wembley. I do care. Now, back in the Great Hall, Red, she's cleaning Boober's blanket for him, and she's like, all of this just for a little blanket. And we see Gobo, he's like, you know, it's not just a little blanket to Boober. And so we see they are understanding that they have misunderstood their friend and weren't really caring about their differences. There's a really funny pun, though.
Well, I guess Boober doesn't think it's just a little blanket, Red.
I guess he will now.
Oh.
She accidentally shrunk the blanket. Then we see Boober, he comes frantically running back into the Great Hall with Wembley in his arms, and he's like, help! And Red sees Wembley, and she's like, I also feel responsible for this, and that's kind of her way of apologizing. Boober has this moment where he's like, no, the blanket doesn't matter as much as my friend. Like, I care about Wembley more than this object.
I'll put this little wet rag on his forehead.
I feel responsible too, Boober.
Wembley, you're all right.
Well, I'm fine, Boober, thanks to the wet blanket.
And so it's so sweet. And then we see that Wembley, he finally wakes up. He is not dead, even though he did have a brush with death. And Wembley's like, I'm all good thanks to the blanket. And Boober again is like, no, I just care about you, Wembley.
Sorry, Boober, I shrunk it when I tried to clean it.
Well, I don't care about my blanket.
You don't?
I care about Wembley.
Really?
Yes, really.
And he apologizes to him. And then Boober's like, hey, y'all, I can, show you how to fix these stains. And so everyone, they gather around him to watch how he cleans.
I'll bet you watched it in hot water, didn't you?
Uh-oh.
I can show you Fraggle's a great trick with table salt and borax. Takes out any stain. Now gather around the tub. This is really exciting.
I think it's so sweet because they don't care about laundry. Red, she even said in the 30-minute work week, she hates laundry. She thinks it's the most boring thing in the world. But they want to show that they care about their friend now and their differences, and they'll do what it takes. And so if they have to kind of get excited about laundry or show interest in it, that's a way of apologizing and showing that they care. So overall, it ends well. I did feel bad for Boober because he must feel really different from the Fraggle Five, who for the most part usually are pretty anxiety free, at least like Red is. So yeah, I thought that was a really nice episode on coexistence kind of, and just respecting differences or trying to take into account that something might not matter to you, but obviously it can matter a lot to your friend and to other people. So we have arrived to the episode 17, Marooned, and this is another TV moment that will go down in history because we will face death head on in this episode. And we will face it in a way that I'm not sure any other kids' television show has really done. So the episode opens up with Gobo, and he's wearing Moki's cute little green apron, and he's making lima bean soup for Boober's surprise birthday party that they're having. And then we see Moki leading Boober down to the trash heap for wisdom, since that's a birthday tradition. And per usual, he is worrying about disease and death. And Moki has a really great line to, quell some of his anxiety.
On my birthday, I worry about the Grim Reaper.
But Boober, the time to worry about the Grim Reaper is when you stop having birthdays.
And as they're going to see Marjorie, they come up on Red, and she's reluctantly picking lima beans for Boober's soup.
Why should I have to pick the stupid lima beans for Boober's surprise party?
Hey, Red!
Oh.
And so Red has to kind of hide what she's doing from them. And then outside with the trash heap, Marjorie also has a really great line about anxiety, which honestly is helpful even for me.
Some things are worth worrying about. Impending doom is not one of them.
Life is for living.
So she's saying how, there's not much point in spending energy on worrying about things outside of our control and doom. Granted, it's not always that easy, but a nice sentiment. And she then has a really great number about not worrying and just getting a move on and going with the flow of life. And even Boober, he can't help but groove a little bit to the beat, which Red points out.
Get a move on. Yeah. Go with the flow.
I hate this.
Oh yeah, your tail is wagging.
Stop it! Stop it!
Moki has to take those lima beans back down to Boober, and so she tells Red to go on a hike with Boober to keep him busy in a way. Now, Red is reluctant, again, to do this because her and Boober have so many differences. She's outgoing and more spontaneous, and Boober is, worried about everything all the time. But she agrees, and so they head down to what's called the Spiral Caverns.
Okay, come on, Boober, let's go have ourselves a laugh riot. I just love the Spiral Cavern.
Yes, indeed. The old downward spiral. Perfect.
Now, as they're hiking, Boober, he is worried about everything.
I'm worried about enclosed spaces and death and pain and spiders and words with R in them. And do you want the whole list or just a general overview?
So they come across this falling rock zone sign, and she just completely ignores it. And she's like, don't worry about that. That's for the doozers. And immediately after she's like, quit worrying about it, there is a massive cave-in. We then cut to the Great Hall where the Fraggles hear the sirens alerting them of the cave-in, and immediately they all are in a panic and start running down to the Spiral Cavern.
There's been a cave-in down by the Spiral Cavern.
So Boober and Red, they're trapped together, and Boober is, oddly enough, he's really calm while Red is panicking about being crushed. And I think that's interesting because I've been in similar situations where I have bad anxiety usually, but if I'm with other people who might be more anxious or something like that, my brain kind of goes into a logical or not as anxious, I guess. So I feel a little bit calmer and braver. So I think it's interesting seeing him also doing this.
Thank goodness I have my claustrophobia under control. Red, we gotta cope. If I can cope, anybody can cope.
Now there's a Fraggle called Felix the Fearless, and he's supposed to be, I guess, the leader in these situations. But he's useless, and he tells everyone to just line up in alphabetical order to get help. And Gobo is practical in these situations, so he's like, that is not going to work, and he rises to the occasion to take charge of the rescue efforts.
I like Felix the Fearless as much as the next Fraggle, but the guy hasn't got a clue.
So while that's happening, Red, she's really trying to cope, but she's afraid of dying. Now we don't see Red, scared often, so it's different to see her being afraid. And Boober is really calm, and he says it doesn't help to worry.
I don't want to die.
It's funny. I'm not nearly as afraid as I used to get when I just thought about awful things happening.
And this episode is really rewiring the circuits in my brain. And then Red, she admits that she actually is scared often, but she won't show it or admit it, which we've seen before in like the Let the Water Run episode.
I didn't know that about you.
I'm glad you're here with me, Boober.
It wouldn't be nice to be alone.
So, in their vulnerability, they share a moment of bonding together, and I already want to fucking cry. Now, Felix, he is just useless, like I said, and he says that they're already squished, so it's hopeless and they shouldn't worry about it. And Gobo tells him to like step aside and get out of the way, and he's gonna lead the mission instead.
Looks to me like your friends are already squashed.
You mean
It's hopeless. Let's go get some lunch.
you can't just give up? They might still be alive in there.
We see Moki, she looks like she's unable to physically help, so she's just standing there and basically praying or sending good vibes to Boober and Red. And then Gobo tells Wembley that it looks like it might not turn out well, and so he tells him to stand with Moki and kind of support her through this.
Give her all the help you can. This doesn't look good. May not have a happy ending.
So back in Doc's workshop, I don't know if I mentioned this, but Doc's neighbor, Schimmelfinny, his cat named Fluffinella, she is trapped. She's stuck outside in the cold. And of course, her and Sprocket don't get along, dogs and cats. You know how it is. But in this instance, Sprocket, he says that when it comes to shared suffering, they should put their differences aside to come together in peace and understanding. And he says that verbatim.
You've been thinking, and you've come to realize, shout to one another in the spirit of love and understanding.
So back in the rock, Boober and Red, they hear the other Fraggles trying to save them. They hear like rock, rock, heave. But the rocks, as they're doing this, are starting to collapse on them even more.
Ready? Rock! 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 Heave!
But Boober, he reassures Red again that their friends are going to save them. And then cue the beautiful friendship song. So they're trying to keep some faith just to hold on a little bit longer, one moment at a time, and try to trust in their friends.
We sang,
Try a little longer for your friends.
And this song and them holding hands together is just so sweet, and it makes me cry seeing them set, aside their differences to comfort one another. Now, Red, she says she starts feeling giddy and tired, with the loss of oxygen. And then Red asks the question. She asks Boober, what is it like to die?
We're running out of air. What do you think it's like to die?
I don't know, Red. I don't think anybody does.
And Boober says that no one really knows. And he tells a story about a bubble he saw float up while he was washing laundry one day. And he saw how beautiful it was for just a moment, and then it was gone.
I was doing my laundry, and then this big soap bubble floated right up from the tub. Beautiful and shiny. And then it was gone.
Like, what a metaphor for life. And so Red, she begins to cry again with, fear and sadness as they approach death.
Red, don't be sad.
And so he tells Red that they should just focus on all the good moments that they had together while they had them.
I can't help it.
It was fun while it lasted. All the good times and the songs and the laughs and stuff.
And this is truly just like historical for a kids show. Like, this is a lot. And then we have Boober telling Red again not to go to sleep because they're losing oxygen.
Oh, Boober.
Don't go to sleep, okay, Red?
Ultimately, though, Gobo and them leading the mission, they pull the rocks away and they save Red and Boober from death. And then they all have a great birthday number that they break out into.
Felix, make yourself useful for a change and go get the lima bean soup, eh?
Stay a little longer with your friends.
So I forgot to mention too, but when Boober and Red were trapped, he told Red that he actually does have fun sometimes, but that's like a secret. And then Red tells him that she's also afraid sometimes, but doesn't like to admit it. And so during the birthday, Boober tells Red that they will, keep that secret between each other.
And that stuff about me being afraid.
Those are secrets, right?
Right!
The birthday boy is back to stay!
We can't have a noisy holiday!
So I love how this episode truly achieves, I feel like, what the goal of the show was. Like, a lot of our conflict comes from differences and not understanding one another. And when faced with a crisis and death, which everyone will face eventually, people come together despite those differences that usually would bother them. And those grievances feel, trivial in the grand scheme of life.
The other thing I wanted to add also is I like that even the Muppets cannot escape death, right? In Fraggle Rock, they are not immune to it. It is something that we all will experience at some point, and that's kind of comforting in a weird way.
And so I thought that was really beautiful to see it played out. And then Boober's metaphor of the bubble and everything like that, and their friends coming together. It's too damn much. That brings us to season 1, episode 19, The Great Radish Famine. So at the beginning of this episode, Doc is fighting with his neighbor Schimmelfinny again.
Remember that carburetor I rebuilt to save gas? Well, now and I'm getting about 71 miles to the gas. Why are you laughing?
And he tells him he no longer wants to be friends with him ever again.
You've been adding gas to my tank every night? You mean I'm not getting better mileage? Go and never darken my phone again.
But as he's thinking about the things that him and Sprocket can do for the day, like playing ball, he realizes that he uses Schimmelfinny's football, so him and Sprocket need Schimmelfinny to play football. So he's coping with the loss of his friendship. And then we cut to Fraggle Rock, where Marjorie, she's having an oracle moment. She appears to herself in a dream, and she's saddened that the Fraggles and the Doozers and the Gorgs, they simply cannot understand one another.
You appeared to yourself in a dream?
Why can't the Fraggles and the Doozers and the Gorgs, why can't they understand one another?
So she decides she's going to teach them a lesson with magic. And as she's doing that, she does this spell and she brings all of the radishes over to her.
Let the radishes in the Gorgs' garden come to me!
And the idea is that she's going to make all of the creatures come together as one over this shared problem of the radishes being gone. So Moki, she's writing this poem when Boober arrives, and his anxiety is immediately relieved when he learns that Moki did not actually die in her sleep. But he says there's another problem, and that problem is that there are no radishes in the pantry. And as we remember, Moki's job is to get the radishes.
And since there are no radishes down there, and it is your job to pick the radishes, I thought you had died.
So yeah, he thought she was dead because there were no radishes, which seems kind of like a passive-aggressive dig about like telling her to go do her job.
I'll go do it right away.
Nice of you to remember.
Oh, anytime. Oh.
After that, we cut to the Doozers, and we see Flange. He's writing in his diary about his new job at the radish mine.
Dear Diary, I have a new job, working in the radish mines. Morning.
Wouldn't that be sad if that job got replaced or taken away? But this is where we learn that the Doozer sticks are actually made from the radishes and radish dust. This is huge, so we're seeing everything is connected. And apparently Boober and the Fraggles, they don't realize that the Doozer constructions are actually made from the radishes.
If I can't have radishes, Doozer constructions are almost as good. I wonder why that is.
So then we go to the Gorgs, and we see Ma Gorg talking about her beauty cream, which is made from the radishes that Junior grows in the garden. And she needs more, so Junior goes out to the garden to get more, but, there's none left. They're gone.
Ma! Something terrible! There are no radishes!
So Junior has to start working hard again, and he's planning more. And then we also learn that the beauty cream is actually an anti-vanishing cream. We learned that from Pa Gorg. So it's essentially used to keep the Gorgs from disappearing.
Yes, if the Gorgs don't use it, we vanish. No! Turn invisible!
Now, is this true? Or is Pa Gorg just being an asshole to Junior again to scare him into doing work for him?
Then plant those radish seeds!
Yes, sir! Whoa! Get in there, little radishes! Come on!
So we will find out. But Moki also hears from Junior that there are no radishes. And as she discovers that, we pan over to the Doozers, who are also discovering that there are no more radishes, and they are in a full panic. This is their fucking job on the line. So of course Marjorie, she's convinced as they all, learn that they have this shared problem, they'll come together to solve it by putting aside their differences. So the Fraggle Five, they're starting to panic, also realizing there's no radishes left, which is their staple food.
But radishes are the staff of life, the sustainer of Fraggledom. Ashes! All is ashes!
But Moki, she's like convinced that the Doozers aren't actually panicking about it since they're so different from the Fraggles.
Now, take the Doozers, for instance. They are absolutely unflappable. They're different from us. If they were in trouble, would they panic?
And the Doozers are also convinced that they're different and alone in this issue. No one else shares the problem of these radishes disappearing.
Without radishes, we cannot build!
Oh, Flange, could this be the end of Doozerdom?
We are different than other creatures. We must build!
So in the meantime, with the Doozers out of their jobs, they take up knitting.
What's a doozer gonna do with a gold yarn? Ball yarn.
But they begin losing it over time because they hate not being able to build.
Because I hate knitting! I want to build!
So they blame the Fraggles, thinking that the Fraggles have consumed all of the radishes.
The Fraggles! The Fraggles took our radishes! They eat them all the time! It's their fault!
And Moki, she's writing as she does. She's pondering this, and she doesn't understand why the Doozers have stopped building.
We are slowly starving. And then for some unimaginable reason, the Doozers stop building.
So yeah, Moki, she is writing very dramatically in her journal again. She's, facing starvation. She's writing about that and documenting that for future Fraggles to see. I will say, at least I'll give her credit. She puts her pen down and she's like, you know what? I need to not just write about it, I need to do something.
I can't just write about this. I've got to do something.
But again, like the other episode, she doesn't ask them what's going on. So it is actually true. We cut back and we see that the Gorgs will vanish without the anti-vanishing cream. They rely on those radishes or else their head starts disappearing and then the rest of their body follows suit. So we see this horrifying scene where Pa Gorg is without his head. So Philo and Gunge, they're getting worried and they're telling Marjorie that it's not working. They just see everyone fighting and blaming one another. And my thing is like, Marjorie, radishes take time to grow. So if they have none at all, like how do they come together over this, right? Like it's not going to be solved by them just realizing that they're all shit out of luck. Back to the Doc and Sprocket storyline, they're starting to realize, they kind of do miss Schimmelfinny since they rely on him for fun. Moki, in need of wisdom, she goes to Marjorie for advice, and Marjorie simply gets mad at her for not understanding and only thinking about the Fraggles and no one else in this situation.
What about the Doozers? What about the Gorgs?
They caused the trouble.
They did not.
And so she essentially has to spell it out for Moki.
I've been trying to make you understand each other, to bring you together.
And Marjorie tells her that all of them need to come together to the Gorg's garden if they want to fix this problem. So Moki, she is ready to fix this. She goes to try to get the Doozers' attention to tell them they need a Doozer to go to the garden with her to meet the Gorgs.
I've been looking all over for you.
Just ignore her. Maybe she'll go away. Come on, guys. Just
please.
And ultimately, she does convince them. So later on, we see Moki with Flange Doozer in the garden trying to meet with the Gorgs. And Philo and Gunge tell Marjorie that the plan seemed to have worked. And Marjorie begins fantasizing that they're all together in harmony.
Yes, I love to share.
Radishes to spare.
Unfortunately, not all is in harmony because Moki and Flange are horrified to see Junior Gorg without his head.
Okay, where are the radishes? You said they were here.
mountain.
He has no head.
So they run away terrified. And Marjorie, she concedes. She's like, this is a start regardless, so we'll bring back the radishes. At least they went to the garden to try to talk to one another. And so yes, it's not all harmonious between the different species yet, but you have to start somewhere. Change and understanding doesn't just happen immediately. It takes a lot of work. And like Moki said, it's easier to think you understand without actually understanding. That brings us to the garden plot. So Junior Gorg, he's getting abused by his Gorg parents, with Pa Gorg calling him a complete and utter idiot
The sun, a dummy for a sun. A witless wonder, dunder, blunder, dummy of a sun.
So, of course, Junior Gorky is desperate to get his pa's approval. And to do so, he decides he needs to blow up the ugly rock that's in the garden.
I gotta do something to get back in Daddy's good graces. That's it! I'll get rid of that big ugly old rock the Fraggles are always crawling out of.
The rock is the entrance that the Fraggles come out of to get into the garden. And Red, she overhears all of this. And then there's this terrifying moment where it sounds like Junior killed Red Fraggle.
Daddy's I'll be really pleased.
But no, she's alive and she runs back to Fraggle Rock. And that's when we see Junior start hammering away at the entrance with a sledgehammer. Now, besides Junior doing that, Sprocket is also trying to hammer his way into Fraggle Rock from outer space because he wants to prove to Doc that there is life beyond that hole. Because he's gaslit constantly by Doc to believe there is no life beyond the hole. And so Wembley and Moki, they are witnessing him do this. And so they're in this full panic and they run back.
Oh, Moki, come!
And they come across Red Fraggle, who also tells them that the Gorgs are trying to break into Fraggle Rock.
Outer space! Oh, but there's a Gorg!
A Gorg? Yeah!
No, he's got a hammer! He's trying to smash Fraggle Rock!
They're attacking from all sides!
Now, earlier in the episode, Red Fraggle, she's being competitive with Gobo, and she's telling him that he's losing his edge as an explorer, and basically bragging that she could probably go into outer space.
Oh, what I meant was that...
You're losing your explorer's edge, right?
No!
Don't worry, it happens to everybody.
And she's not afraid to go into outer space.
Oh, well, why don't you go out there and show me?
I couldn't do that. Fear has nothing to do with it. It's grace and style we're concerned with.
So later on, Gobo tells her that she'll have to take care of the Gorgs herself, since she's not afraid.
Red will have to handle the Gorg for now.
Me? It's not that I'm scared for myself, Gobo. It's Fraggle Rock.
Exactly.
And while she takes care of Junior Gorg, him and the rest of the Fraggles are going to take care of Sprocket, the beast. And then Boober has this really great line.
Red, it's no good, Red. I'm useless to you. I'm a quivering collection of the worst and least helpful emotions.
So now the roles are reversed from the Marooned episode. Red is going to have to be the brave one and face the Gorg. Now, luckily for the rest of them, Sprocket, he just knocks himself out. So that's taken care of.
Knocked itself out. That took care of that, eh?
But we cut back to Boober and Red, and Boober is panicking and he's awaiting death. And this is while Red is trying to come up with a plan to save the rock.
Red, why are we cowering here waiting for death? Get your plan moving!
I don't have a plan.
So now Red and Boober have been in 2 near-death situations, so I'm sure this will help cement their trauma bond.
Fraggle Rock is doomed. Everything's gonna be destroyed. All the Fraggles, all my laundry.
So unfortunately, as Boober is panicking, he shouts out that they're doomed. And Junior hears this and he thinks that he heard boom, and he's like, that's a great idea. Let me blow the rock off the map.
Everything is doom. Doom!
Boom? Who said that? Boom! But that's it! Yeah, what a great idea!
So Boober is like, we need to get help, and he's not afraid to ask for help, so he takes off to go back to the others. So Red, she's all alone, but she shouts out to Boober, and she's like, let Gobo know that I am not afraid. And then we go into such a tender, heartfelt song where Red admits that she actually is afraid, but she's afraid to cry.
Why am I afraid to cry?
And she's afraid to admit that she even has fears.
Afraid, fear, afraid to be afraid.
But she's not sure why. And I find that so relatable, because she also knows logically that her friends are there to support her, just as they did when her and Boober were trapped in the cave-in. And yet she still struggles to ask for help and to show vulnerability. So anyways, who gives a fuck about that? Junior is preparing to blow Fraggle Rock off the map. And Red, she watches in terror. She's paralyzed with fear. Bobo, though, he still believes in her, and he tells Boober, don't worry, she's at her best when she's impulsive.
Why you love it when Boom things go ma'am.
Don't worry about Red. She's at her best when she's impulsive.
Yeah, but where is she?
But when Boober and him head back, they find that Red is missing. They don't see her anywhere. And so Gobo says he's going to have to go out into the Gorg Garden to get her.
Yeah, but where is she?
Oh, I gotta go find her.
Go!
So he goes to do that, and then Red shows back up, and she said that she moved the boomstick outside. She moved it back in the garden. So now Gobo is going to get blown to smithereens.
Boober, the Gorg put a boomstick in here, so I carried it back out there.
Gobo's out there now!
Thank God, though, the castle gets blown up instead. Which honestly, I do feel bad for Junior Gorg because his parents are horrible. And now he's screwed. He accidentally blew up the fucking castle, which he didn't even mean to do. Technically, Red did that, but whatever.
Oh no! Oh, now Daddy'll really kill me!
So just when we think we're in the clear, though, the camera pans to Gobo's lifeless body.
Look! Gobo's hurt!
So he's splayed out in the garden, and Boober and Red, they spring into action to go help him, but they aren't able to move him because there's wood that's pinning him down to the ground. So Boober, he's going to go run to get help again, but Junior Gorg traps him.
I'm in real trouble with my daddy, too! I know you're in there! Now come out of there, you little rat! Oof!
Luckily, though, Red, she saves the day by being impulsive because she ties Junior Gorg's shoelaces together, and so he falls over and releases Boober.
Pumpkin face!
Huh? I'll get you too! Whoa! Whoa!
Gobo, he's still delirious from being knocked out, and he's like mumbling that he's afraid, and he's calling out for Uncle Matt to sing this old song that he used to sing to him called Muck and Goo.
Oh, please, Uncle Matt. Please, Muck and Goo.
Give me 3 and give me 4. Cover me with guck and go.
And so we see a flashback of Matt singing that to small Gobo, and then we also see Junior knocked out on the ground, and he's also dreaming of Pa Gorg singing that song to him too.
7, 8, slime and slate. Sing it now and don't be late.
I'm not sure if that actually happened or if he's just dreaming it, you know, since he's so neglected and pining for affection from his father. Maybe that's why he's believing that. But despite the big differences and conflict between Junior and the Fraggles, they possibly share music and need love from their family. They both dream of that. So luckily for Junior, Pa and Ma return and they think that the castle is under attack. So Junior lies and he says it was terrible defending the castle. He was so brave for defending it, but they blew it up.
Where are the vile villains who dared blow out the windows of the castle?
It was terrible, Daddy.
Oh, brave babykins.
So he still luckily gained his parents' approval.
Left!
Great Gorg, but I wish I'd been here to stand beside you, son.
Yes!
To fight the enemy with you, a king and his prince, back to back.
Fun to fun.
And then Junior learns that the rock that he's trying to destroy is actually very special to Pa and Ma Gorg because it's their kissing rock.
Look, Mother, those criminals even had the nerve to try to destroy Kissing Rock.
Kissing Rock?
Where they shared their first magical kiss.
That rock is the traditional spot for the first loving kiss between Gorgs, Junior. This rock is sacred. Nothing must ever happen to it.
And so basically it's sacred to the Gorg. So then Junior, he's really weird about it, which I'm not a fan of.
Hey, Daddy, does Ma kiss good? Huh? Does she?
Did you hear
Does
that?
she, Daddy?
Fraggle
Does
Rock
she?
is...
But yeah, Red overhears this and she hears that Fraggle Rock, aka the kissing rock to the Gorgs, is sacred. Yay for interconnectedness. So besides the radishes, the rock is also important to both species, and Junior nearly destroyed it without even realizing that it was important to the Gorgs also. Now Red, having been inspired by Gobo saying he was afraid too, she admits that she was afraid as Boober tells Gobo about how she saved them all.
Gobo!
Oh, you're okay!
Red was incredible. She stopped the Gorg, she saved Fraggle Rock, and you...
I was so frightened and so worried about you.
Oh, I was worried about you, too.
And despite her fears, her friends still believe in her, and they all care for one another, just as she knew they would. So I was going to do all 4 seasons in this one video so that I could show the interconnected themes and character developments all together here. But honestly, I don't trust my computer to handle that. And I started recording this a year ago and I took a hiatus. So it's just taken a really long time. But to conclude though with season 1 and my overall message, I think Fraggle Rock is needed now more than ever. And yes, that is corny, but I just think people need to watch silly Muppet creatures to remember their humanity and the humanity of others. And given our administration here in the United States and the political climate more broadly, too, I just find it important to practice empathy in any way that we can. Now, as we move on to the other seasons, we'll see episodes on war and propaganda. We'll see how all of these different beings in Fraggle Rock really start to come together. And we'll also see how they begin just questioning their own beliefs. So if you watch this video, thank you so much. Like I said, this has taken me a while and really is just a passion project. So thanks again, and hopefully I will be back with season 2.